Lots happening right now in our region.
Perch patterns have been working really well.
The bite has been good.
Just keep snapping it off the body.
The down imaging, the side imaging. There's a lot of different variations and different ways to rig this.
Oh, yeah! Look at this giant.
They are heavy.
Oh, look at that.
On today's show, we're talking seasonal peaks.
This is AnglingBuzz TV. I'm Troy Linder.
I'm Jim Edlin.
And understanding these seasonal peaks, well, they're definitely going to help you catch more fish. Here in the upper Midwest, it's warming up. The fish are pretty much done spawning. There still might be some fish spawning, but they're making their move into what we would call, I guess, a pre-summer period, which can be absolutely fantastic. I've been out bass fishing. It's been very good, and it has been catch and release. So it's very important to understand the regulations. They vary state by state, obviously, but they can also vary lake by lake.
You know, good point, Troy. And here in the state of Minnesota, you know, we have slot limits on certain lakes, so make sure that whatever body of water you're fishing, you know the rules and regulations. Some places there's a minimum length limit even for crappies. You've got experimental and special regulations.
Yeah.
So, you know the law.
Absolutely. And up next, this feature should definitely help you understand these seasonal movements and peaks. Nothing is random in the underwater world, especially when it comes to fish behavior. Fish are either responding to instincts like the need to spawn, feed, or seek safety, or environmental stimuli like seasonal changes, weather, moon phase, or water temperature. Most times, fish are responding to it all, instinct and ecology. Yes, it can be a tough nut to crack. As anglers, the tendency is to fish a memory, working the same spots with the same baits year after year. But that's like throwing darts with a blindfold on. Fact is, fish respond to changing seasonal conditions, not dates on a calendar. Instead, successful anglers have learned to recognize seasonal transitions and peaks and know how those affect fish location, behavior, and presentation choice. The best way to do that? Get into the habit of watching the weather every single day and monitor events that can affect water temperature, seasonal arrivals, duration, and peaks. Also learn to recognize the annual periods of fish response. For example, let's consider what's going on right now, the week of May 22nd in the upper Midwest. Depending on your latitude and the target species, you could be in what the fish response system calls the pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn, or pre-summer period. Let's assume the largemouth bass in your area have spawned. Male bass may still be shallow guarding nests, while females have moved deeper, signaling the post-spawn period. Or maybe males have also vacated the nest, regrouping with females to form larger schools, what the fish response system calls the pre-summer period. Recovering from the metabolic drain of the spawn, bass soon begin to feed aggressively, a hallmark of the prime summer period, a seasonal peak not to be missed. In the case of walleyes, the spawn is over in the Midwest, although many fish can still be found shallow hunting food, not far from spawning grounds. Others may be along the first main break or near shore humps and points. These fish have one thing on their minds: food. Indeed, the post-spawn to prime summer period offers some of the best bass and walleye fishing of the entire year. And in many parts of the AnglingBuzz region, that's right now. You know, during this time of year, it's very important. As soon as you hit the water, you got to find the fish. They're moving. And two of the key factors are forage and cover.
Absolutely, Troy. And if you find one without the other, fish might not even be there, whether they're bass, walleyes, or panfish.
Yeah, you're right about that. And one thing is for certain, if you can't find the fish, you can't catch them.
This Underwater Minute is brought to you by AquaView, the original underwater camera. Finding cover and forage is the bottom line for fishing success throughout the changing seasons. Today's anglers can use a variety of different tools to examine the underwater world. A good pair of Polaroid sunglasses are a must-have for any angler. And fish finders today use various types of sonar technology to investigate the water below. The three most popular technologies are side imaging, down imaging, and classic 2D sonar. Underwater cameras are a great way to identify specific fish species, types of forage, and even cover preferences. Rocks are a big draw for all species of game fish. Isolated boulders, shallow or deep, are good areas that collect forage and, in turn, game fish. Like underwater highways, ledges dropping into deep water tend to gather schools of fish moving up or down. Weeds, weeds, and more weeds. Shallow bulrushes, cattails, and lily pad fields hold bass and panfish spring, summer, and fall. Deeper weeds like cabbage, milfoil, and coontail beds collect fish of all species. Active fish often suspend over or move along weed edges to feed, while inactive fish tend to move into denser weed clumps. Deep and shallow wood is another form of fish holding cover. Fallen trees, brush, stumps, even fence posts gather fish of all species. In the big picture, today's anglers have a lot of tools to help speed up the fish finding process. It's pretty simple. If you can't find them, you can't catch them.
After the short break, we'll have our highlight destination feature and the first of our Buzz Bite reports as Angling Buzz continues.
Looking for the perfect fishing vacation? Leech Lake, Minnesota. There's over 112,000 acres of water to explore with fantastic walleye, bass, pike, panfish, and trophy muskies. The fishing opportunities are endless. Leech Lake has it all with over 30 resorts, lodges, campgrounds, and hotels line its pristine shores. Plan your trip. It's Minnesota's original up-north vacation destination.
You have a choice, turf or surf. It's fishing season. Welcome to the outdoors. We're baiting, casting, drifting, and limiting out. The outdoors never felt so good. Catch, release, and keepers. The outdoors never tasted so good. It's fishing season. We are outdoors. Mills Fleet Farm.
Explore Alexandria, Minnesota. Whether it's a long weekend or a week-long loaded with family fun, you'll find plenty of things to do in Alex. Unleash your inner explorer with over 300 lakes, beaches, parks, hundreds of miles of trails, dining, golf, shopping, museums, and history. Alexandria is Minnesota's hidden gem. Go to explorealex.com to find your vacation this season.
Welcome back to Angling Buzz. It's time now for a highlight destination feature. This week we're heading over to Michigan, which is an absolute incredible place. I've had very fond memories over there, catching giant smallmouth bass, some largemouth bass too, and some muskies. I mean, when you talk about the Great Lakes around it, Lake St. Clair, the inland rivers and lakes, it is a fish factory.
Super diverse, Troy, and let's not forget about trout, salmon, all the stuff that Hemingway wrote about. There are walleyes, virtually every species you can think of in Michigan. It's classic fishing.
Yeah, it's amazing there. Let's get right to it. Here is the great state of Michigan. Michigan walleye fishing is heating up right now. With fish in various stages of post-spawn, anglers are trolling, casting, and jigging their way into solid numbers of fish. The inland lakes around Traverse City are walleye hotspots, Long and Mitchell, as well as Leelanau Lake to the north. Just south of the Mackinac Bridge, the clear waters of adjacent lakes Burt and Mullet offer superb dusk and night walleye fishing, anglers trolling cranks over shallow flats and break lines into the wee hours. Lake Huron's Saginaw Bay is also producing, with walleyes held tight to shallow weeds in 6 to 20 feet. But given gin clear waters, just make sure to get your bait away from the boat. Trolling planer boards or making long casts definitely ups the odds. And on the Detroit River, vertical jigging and hand lining continue to pay out for big walleye dividends. On the smallmouth bass front, Michigan's been kicking out some Goliaths. In 2015, angler Greg Gassisiel caught a 9.33 pounder on Hubbard Lake, besting a fish in the record books for over 100 years. Then just last fall, angler Bruce Kramer broke both records with a 9.98 pound fish caught on the Indian River between Burt and Mullet Lake. Right now is the time for your own shot at a Michigan giant. With warming waters, inland lake bass are in various stages of the spawn, calling for finesse tactics like drop shot rigs and Senkos. And guide Ben Wolf also reports that pre-spawn fish are crushing spinnerbaits with reckless abandon. Lake St. Clair in eastern Michigan is another option for big fish and numbers. The reason so many bass and FLW events are held on the lake. A mixed bag of pre-spawn and bedding fish can be found adjacent to weed patches and rock humps in 4 to 8 feet of water. The tube reigns supreme, and anything that looks like the invasive goby gets bit. Warmer waters have pushed bait fish into the ports of Holland, St. Joseph, and Muskegon, presenting some great coho and king salmon fishing. Whether you're fishing from a small boat or charter, it's a trolling deal with lead core, copper, and dipsies all in play. These days, clear waters find more fish caught on spoons than plugs, although meat rigs are effective at times also. Fans of lake trout should have a close look at Grand Traverse Bay near Traverse City, where anglers are catching fish casting, trolling, and vertical jigging. As a general rule of thumb, the cooler the weather, the shallower the fish. Primarily bottom-orientated, Michigan's lake trout have adapted quite well to the nearly endless buffet of invasive gobies. But anglers say that's a positive thing. As a result, lake trout taste much better. Their flesh is bright peach to pink, and on average, it's tough to distinguish it from the taste of salmon. That's really an incredible place. 9-pound smallmouth. I've caught them big, but not that big. In sheer size, when you're looking at the state of Michigan, 36,000 miles of inland rivers and streams. And the fishable shoreline is over 3,200 miles, which is second only to Alaska. Our first BuzzBite report is with Lee Tauken. He's a big fish specialist, specifically muskies, and we're joining him right now in Madison, Wisconsin.
Target species this morning was largemouth bass, casting sinking worms like this in 2 to 5 feet of water. Prediction will be for the weekend and the upcoming week is that this will be the week of the big bass spawn locally, especially largemouths. So it should be pretty good conditions. The crappies, we saw some crappies bedded up today. They should be full swing all throughout the weekend and the middle part of next week as well. Muskie-wise, a little tough. Our muskies in our lakes here don't cooperate well right away. Small baits is my recommendation. The 2 muskies we caught were on really small minnow baits. So give that a whirl.
When people think of muskies in Wisconsin, they think of Hayward, they think of the north. But fish being caught right in the town of Madison and that chain of lakes by the university, hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Our next report, we're heading over to the Alexandria region of Minnesota.
But I've found the wind-blown sides of the lakes have been producing the most walleyes for me so far. In doing so, I've been looking for sand flats with weeds, rock pile gravel transition, and mud bays with weeds also have been producing fish. Keep in mind the wind-blown sides of the lakes have been producing fish. With Northland's RZ jig in the 1/8, 3/16 and quarter sized, tipped with a shiner or a fathead minnow, pitched onto these wind-blown shorelines have been producing walleyes in that 6 to 12 feet of water. Working it back away from shore has been producing fish. Till next time, from the Alexandria Lakes area, I'm Ben Hiddle.
Coming up after this break, we have more BuzzBite reports. As Angling Buzz continues, stay with us.
Because boaters know and follow Minnesota's aquatic invasive species laws, 98% of lakes are not known to have any zebra mussels. 95% are not known to have any kind of invasive animals or plants. Let's keep it this way. Clean aquatic plants and animals from boats, trailers, and equipment. Drain all water from watercraft, including the motor, and keep drain plugs out during transport. Dispose of unused bait properly. Together, we're preventing the spread of aquatic invasive species in Minnesota. Excel Outdoors, storage solutions for sportsmen. Cargo rack, cargo trunk, bucket caddy, Jaws of Ice, the best auger carrier ever. Hunting, the ladder stand caddy. Fishing game boards, and the extruder board. Organize your life outside. Excel outdoors.
Lake Vermilion. Explore. Relax. Reconnect.
Minnesota's most beautiful lake.
Get hooked on our trophy walleye,
That's a beauty.
bass,
My favorite fish.
musky fish,
That's a beauty there.
Things to do? You'll never get bored.
Rooms with a view? We got 'em.
Lake Vermilion. 4 seasons of fun.
Welcome back to Angling Buzz. Now let's check in with Jeff Evans in the northern part of Wisconsin.
The smallmouth bass bite is on. We're in the Hayward Lakes area right now, and we're getting some nice pre-spawn smallies. I'm going to put her back. We're using Rapala X-Wraps today. It's a suspending stick bait bite, and that's a number 8. Sometimes you got to play with size and color. Sometimes you'll go up to a number 10 size, and again, color can make a difference. But we're working over spawning flats. They're not spawning yet. You know, water temperatures are 56, 57 degrees, but we're just drifting over these flats, twitching those stick baits, and the bite is really good. It's the same thing going on Chequamegon Bay right now as well. We also have good crappie fishing. Crappies are in all stages of the spawn. We're catching them in weeds 5, 6, 7 feet of water using plastics and slip bobbers, and we've got a good walleye bite going in the Hayward Lakes area as well, in weed growth 5, 6 feet of water on jigs and minnows.
Northern Wisconsin, what a cool place. You've got all the breweries, you've got roadside attractions, you've got the National Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, that big muskie.
Yeah.
Definitely, you can't miss it.
Yeah, it's a cool place for sure. Right now, we're heading over to Lake Vermilion with Billy Rosner.
There's one thing I can tell you this week about the walleye bite. It's pretty consistent, but there's not one thing that's really putting a lot of fish in the boat. It's kind of a combination of things. I've been pulling rigs, I've been jigging, some plastics. The water temperatures keep warming up here. Probably be doing some jigging wraps. The trolling bite is working also. And start concentrating on some of your transitions, you know, that hard to soft bottom. Seems to be a lot of fish in those areas. If things aren't working out in one area, just make some small adjustments, keep it simple, and that will put fish in the boat day in, day out.
And Lake Vermilion is a great place. Big muskies, gigantic muskies, big smallmouth bass, big walleyes, a great multi-species fish factory. Another place, the Glacial Lakes region of South Dakota, and right now, we join Charlie Moore.
Talk to the walleye guys right now. It's real easy to figure out we're in transition from post-spawn to summer patterns because they're catching them deep trolling with cranks, spinners, and crawlers. They're catching them casting cranks. They're catching them pitching jigs, slip bobbers. I fished Friday. Had the boat in 4 foot of water, pitching up shallow with a 4-inch power minnow, did really well. Now with the smallies, you can see a ton of them up shallow in the clear water right now, but the bite's kind of hot and cold. But the big thing this year is the baits that I usually throw, the shad style baits, have not been the ticket. You need the minnow elongated style bait like the shadow wrap, the husky jerk, and I've even been throwing plain old floating wrap. So, but they do bite. It's been good. The white bass, they're up, they're moving. Any of the bays right now where you find the warmer water, it has a little color to it, you can catch all the white bass you want. The walleye fishing is good, the smallie fishing is good, and the white bass fishing is great. So get out and enjoy the bite we have in eastern South Dakota.
Definitely, anytime you have the chance to fish the Dakotas, a lot of fun. Now we're headed up to Leech Lake to hang out with the Leisure Outdoors crew.
We're post-opener now, which means the fish are starting to transition and move out a little bit deeper. On a wind-driven day, you're still going to find them shallow, 5 to 8 feet of water, focusing on the major points on the lake as well as some of the wind-blown shorelines. But on those other days where maybe it's not blowing as hard, you're going to want to move out to that secondary break in 10 to 15 feet of water and focus on those fish in those areas. The key is finding schools of bait fish. The last couple weeks has all been about finding the schools of bait fish. You find the pods of walleyes. If you don't see bait on your electronics, look elsewhere. A couple good pieces of advice though. Number 1, look for good green cabbage and weed growth. That's going to hold fish. Number 2, get away from the crowds. Try different things. Fish on the edges of those crowds. May is a busy month on Leech Lake. And number 3, try different tactics. 90% of the people are probably using a jig and a minnow. Try a jig and a plastic. Be aggressive. Rapala rip and wrap. Okay? Or Just a simple jig like a hair jig, something different that's going to give those fish a little something different to look at.
And for our final Buzz Bite report, we're heading over to Michigan with Captain Ben Wolf.
For anglers after the walleye, Saginaw Bay is a tremendous place to be this time of the year. Crawler harnesses or spoons can lead to fish just like this one. With many of May's insect hatches, fly fishing is a great option, and anglers that are looking for the rivers can find some fantastic trout fishing. Bass fishing continues to be red hot throughout the state. Down in the southern portion, we have bass up on the beds. And in northern Michigan, we still have mostly a pre-spawn pattern with some of the early, smaller inland lakes seeing some spawning action. If you're looking for a captain or guide in the state of Michigan, give us a call today or check us out on the web, sportfishmichigan.com.
If you're looking at this, how do you know it's not this? If you see this, how do you know it's not actually this? Trust your AquaView and you'll see the real underwater world. AquaView leads by innovation. First in high definition, first in handheld viewing, the finest underwater optics, the brightest, sharpest screens, the original underwater camera, and the fish finder that puts you on the fish.
Many things have been said about rough waters, but few things have been said about a smooth ride. The revolutionary Smooth Moves Ultra is a mechanical suspension system that features a four-spring design and a hydraulic shock, providing the most comfortable and durable ride on the market. Through passion, tenacity, and the right equipment, you can overcome even the roughest waters.
Sportfish Michigan is your #1 source for top charter captains and fishing guides in Michigan. Our network of professionals are full-time anglers with years of experience providing customers with the best possible fishing trip services. Fish for trout, salmon, steelhead on Lake Michigan or its famous tributary rivers, the Traverse City area's world-class smallmouth bass, walleye fishing on the Detroit River and Saginaw Bay, or northern Michigan's spectacular ice fishing. We do it all. Sportfish Michigan. Get out. Get bit.
And now it's time for today's cool product segment brought to you by Mills Fleet Farm. We're in a state of transition right now. Fish are moving from their spawning locations out toward their summer haunts. The best way to find them, search baits. There are a lot of different search baits out there on the market, some hard, some soft. We're going to cover a few today that our staff picked for you. Let's start off with spinner baits. They've been around forever. They catch a ton of fish. Everything from the smallest size, like this VMC spinner bait with a curl tail, perfect for panfish, never leave home without it, all the way up to your Terminator Titanium T1. You can get them in a lot of different blade configurations. The bass spinnerbait covers water fast and helps you find those bass in transition. But don't overlook them for walleyes. We found out years ago out in South Dakota that they're deadly trolled over wood, all the way up to these magnum-sized spinnerbaits. We've got the bionic bucktail right here, perfect for those big toothy critters, whether it's pike or muskie. Spinnerbaits, all sizes, deadly effective. Now there's another style of spinnerbait that's been around for a long time too, but excels in clear water situations. Now if you're any kind of a trout angler, you know the deadly efficacy of a rooster tail or a blue fox. You never leave home without these. If you're on trout waters, salmon waters, hey, in those limestone creek smallmouths or small river systems, great baits to fish. All the way up to what you're fishing for muskies. You know, you've got blades of all different sizes. Pretty hard to beat a bucktail for covering water to find those big muskies no matter where you're fishing. Another great search bait, it's been really popular over recent years. Outdoor writers like myself have spent a lot of time writing in magazines about how these things catch fish no matter the species. From Impulse and Northland Tackle up in Bemidji, we've got many different styles and shapes, everything from a fatter shad style body. This is fairly recent here, available in a lot of different colors. Experiment with profile, depending on what the fish are eating. It's a match the hatch scenario on most bodies of water. Carry a bunch of different jig heads. We've also got some pre-rigged options. So right out of the package, you can tie it on your line, cast and go. They couldn't be simpler to fish. For anglers of all ages, just cast it out, count it down, reel it in, catch fish. The Mimic Minnow from Northland is a fantastic bait. Storm, you've got the Wild Eye Shad, everything from a really small size to a bigger size for stripers and larger predators. The talk right now is Storm's 360 GT search bait, available in 3 different sizes, a lot of great forage matching patterns. Just a fantastic, cool bait that catches fish. Now, no matter what kind of search bait you're fishing, it's good to have some high quality gear. In terms of rods, hey, this new line from St. Croix out of Park Falls, Wisconsin, Bass X, 14 rods, technique specific rods in this series, SC2 graphite, $100 a piece. You can build a real arsenal of rods for your next outing on the water. All the stuff you see here today is available at your local Fleet Farm or fleetfarm.com.
Spring is an interesting time for fishing. Yeah, you have a lot of fish in shallow water, but they move around a lot based on changing weather patterns and available forage. One day they're here and tomorrow they're gone. You need a good search bait to comb the water fast. One of my go-to lures is a rattle bait. They work for all different fish species: bass, walleye, pike, white bass, even trout and panfish, and even guys use them for ice fishing. These baits have a number of really unique qualities. Number 1, lots of sound and vibration. Number 2, you can cast them a mile. Number 3, they sink quickly, enabling you to cover a wide depth range by simply changing your retrieve speed. Rattle baits are great search lures for active biters. Some of you may ask, what are the best water conditions to fish rattle baits? My answers would be rivers, clear water lakes, dark water reservoirs, cold water, warm water, even frozen water. Generally speaking, most bass anglers will throw rattle baits like this on a medium action bait caster. This is 6'10" by St. Croix, so anything around 6'10" to 7'2", 7'4" is perfect for throwing rattle baits like this Rapala Rip and Wrap. The line size, fluorocarbon, 12 to 14 pound fluoro. You can also throw these on spinning rods. A bigger spool, 8 to 10 pound fluoro is perfect. Now you can see why I like rattle baits. Speed, sound, and vibration. Horizontal moving baits are critical for catching fish. They're great for search baits, and especially when the fish are on the move.
No doubt, Troy. Every angler out there should have search baits in his or her box. And next week, the episode is The Quality of Fishing Today.
That's going to be great. And we want to remind you, anytime you leave a lake, clean, drain, and dry, helping stop the spread of aquatic invasive species. And be sure to check us out online at AnglingBuzz.com. We got all our buzz bite reports. We have more guide reports there as well. We're updating it all the time with tips and tactics to help you catch more fish. And also a chance to win our Mills Fleet Farm sweepstakes for a fabulous weekend of fishing and fun on Lake Vermilion. I'm Troy Linder.
I'm Jim Edlin. We'll see you next week.
This week's Buzz Bite Report.
Tony Roach. Ray Brostone.
Lee Talkin here.
Topwater's been really fun.
Good luck, everybody.
Have fun.
We'll see you next week.